So I'd like to take you a little bit deeper into the administrator interface and show you some of the things we've done. You got to see the new UI organization yesterday for admin menus. You got to see some great things around quick nav in the administrative interface. And trust me, once you first use the keyboard shortcut to find a part of the admin interface, you're never going to use anything else again. So here I've jumped to the groups section of the admin screen using the quick nav, but now I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut, and I just want to go to my list of projects. Surprise, surprise, we're working on our Angry Nerds project. And I need to make a handful of changes to our configuration. Again, inside of the project summary page, I see a wealth of information I couldn't see before. I can see my issue types. I get some basic information about people. There's already a lot of richer information. But I need to make some changes to versions. Yesterday, we added a new version, but I still have some maintenance to do. So I'm going to dive into the versions area. So we've got our 1.3, but someone's called version 1.2 Returning of the Nerds. They've never seen the movie. It's Return of the Nerds. So I'm going to quickly make that change and make an update. So again, no reloads, quick edits is something we're really trying to achieve in the admin interface. I can also do things like release versions. So I've got a red indicator here telling me my June 2nd release is overdue. So let's release it with today's date and move on. You can also archive versions if you don't want them to appear in your project or project roadmap or in any of your control charts. So we actually had a couple more people join the Angry Nerds project, so I want to add them quickly. So both Lewis and Jonathan have volunteered to jump on board the Angry Nerds team. So I can, again, just like you would in an issue, quickly get autocomplete type ahead to add those people to the project. So as you administrate, again, quick things around the project, much, much easier to add those folks to the team. Now, Jonathan's also volunteered to be the lead developer on our rendering engine. So I'm pretty excited, and I want to actually make him the lead for that component in JIRA. So I just jump into components. I'm going to add him as the component lead. And I'm going to make sure that all the issues that are assigned to that component are assigned to him by default. Again, we're trying to make all the areas of project editing as easy as possible. Now, Jonathan has requested that I rename it the 2D rendering engine since it's a flat web page, and it's not really 3D, but maybe in a future version, we'll get a 3D rendering engine. So then what's the other information that I can discover about my project? If I go to the Issue Types tab, I actually see some pretty interesting information right off the bat. I notice that I have 6 issue types in this project, and 4 of them use the same workflow, but 2 use a different workflow. 4 of them use the same field configuration, 2 use a different field configuration, but they all use the same screen configuration. So this is already a level of information that tells me something about my project I didn't know before. Now, I need to make some changes to tasks. Turns out we're not doing QA for tasks right now, and it's really biting us. So I want to add a new step for QA for our fields. But first, I need to fill in a tester field for this particular project whenever we do QA to tell me who actually did the testing. But I can't remember what screen that field was on. So what screen is the tester field on? Oh, it's on those 4 screens, and the one I want for my QA process is my QA assign screen. So now that I'm armed with all the information to actually make the change I want, because half of it's finding the information and half of it's actually making the change, I can dive into the visual workflow editor and actually make that change to add the step. Again, I can tell which projects share workflows. So I know that this workflow that I'm editing, the task workflow, I'm not worried about the changes affecting anyone else's project. So I'll quickly jump into the visual editor, and we'll make the changes that we need to make. Again, I can do this graphically, so I see the workflow in its state today. It's much easier to understand than a textual representation. I can quickly create a draft, so I can make all my changes in the draft version without needing to publish it to production until I need to. And I know I want to add my QA step in between in progress and the done stage. So being the neat freak that I am, I'll make a little room. I'll delete the transition between in progress and done because I don't want anyone to be able to go directly between those 2 steps. And then I'll just grab and drag a new step, a new status onto the workflow, and then connect it with those transitions. Now, the research I just did before and quickly checking out what was my tester field included in, it was included in my QA screen. I'll call this Start Testing, and then I'll pick the screen that I actually looked at before because that's the one I want to use for this transition. So you see how the information you get inside the project views actually helps you then make the changes that you need to make. And again, I'll add a finishing step so we can actually resolve the issue as it goes from the QA step to done. So again, you see how easy it is to make really simple changes. But there are a lot more advanced things that you actually do in the workflow designer. So in a lot of cases, previously, I have a step in my workflow that takes me from in progress back to open. Kind of allows me to restart the issue. Well, I might want that for every step in my workflow. And you can see here I'm doing a little house cleaning. It's pretty cool that the visual editor allows you to get it exactly like you are, especially if you're obsessive compulsive the way I am. So that stop progress transition, I want that to occur kind of for every step in my workflow. So I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm actually going to create a global transition. This allows me to say, I want a transition that goes from every step in my workflow back to open. And rather, if I had a 10-step workflow, I might have to create 11 or 9 transitions that gets me back to that stage. I can do it once here and create a global transition. So a lot of the capabilities that some of you may actually have used to hand edit XML, I can actually now do inside the Visual Workflow Designer for complex workflows. So now I'll go through the quick action of publishing our workflow, getting it back to active, and I can immediately, again, see the changes that I made, both in terms of the table you see here and in terms of the preview. But to go full circle to all the great end user benefits and trying to empower end users and make those features more beneficial, I'm actually going to hop back over to the end user side of the interface and actually show you the workflow inside of the view issue. So I've got a request here that's a task. And there I see the workflow, the changes we just made with the step that I'm on highlighted. So your end user can now understand their part in the workflow if that's something that you want to expose to your end users. So again, a big part of being administrators is not just about making a bunch of changes. It's about making changes that actually can help your end users understand what they're doing and do a better job and actually use JIRA to its full power.